So let's go ahead and make our color wheel. I am using watercolors, so I printed 2 of these PDFs that are available in your resources onto some watercolored paper. And then I'm going over the lines with a Sharpie marker, a permanent marker, because my ink in my printer is not watercolor friendly. It's going to smear. So if you're watercoloring, you definitely want to trace over the lines. If you're not, you don't have to. You can print it on whatever paper that you're going to be using. If it's markers, you just need to print it on regular cardstock or whatever. So I'm going over and tracing the inner circle of one page and then the whole thing on the other page, and you'll see why later. And this is my old color wheel. I'm basically going to be remaking this. So it has 2 different sections. You can see the little inner circle is actually a separated piece connected by a brad. So that's why I printed it out twice. So let's go ahead and start the fun of the color mixing. So once I traced all the lines with Sharpie markers so it won't bleed all over the place, the lines, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out with my scissors. I'll cut out the big circle, and that's all I'm going to really start working with so far. So I want to do this in sections so it's easy to understand. So I'm just going to work with the primary colors. There are only 3 primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So you've got your red color wherever you're going to start it on your wheel. You're going to skip 3 spaces, and that will be your next primary color. Then you'll skip 3 spaces, and that will be your next primary color. Again, there's only 3 colors. So I'm doing this in sections, so it's going to require a lot more mixing because I'm breaking it up. But if you do it all at one time, you don't have to keep remixing all of these colors. Obviously, the red, yellow, and blue are primary. You cannot get those colors by mixing anything together. All the colors in the world are created from these 3 primary colors. All right, so now we're going to move into secondary colors, which is smack dab in the middle of the primaries. So you've got the primary, and then right in the middle is the secondary. So that's easy to understand. This is why I'm breaking it up into sections for you. So the secondary color in between the red and the yellow is a mixture of red and yellow, and that's going to get orange. So orange is your first primary color. Now I'm using paints which already have these colors broken out, not mixed, but I wanted to show you the mixing process. So it's a little bit more work on my end of remixing the same color over and over again to create all these colors, but I just wanted to show you the process. So now we're going into the secondary color, which is in the color between the blue and the yellow. And yellow and blue, I learned that on like the Glad or the Ziploc commercials. Yellow and blue make green. How when you squeeze the little zipper thing at the top, it turned green. Anyway, completely off topic. All right, so the last secondary color is in between blue and red. And when you mix blue and red together, you get purple. If you add more of one color, the color is going to be more intense. So you just keep playing and mixing until you get the purple. Maybe you want to add a little bit more blue. Maybe you want to add a little bit more red. Just get it until you get the color purple that you like, the hue that you like, and then you can go on with your merry little mixing. The last is tertiary colors, and these are the colors in between the primary and the secondary. So you see how when I'm breaking it up into sections and you're creating the colors, you're really just mixing the colors on either side together. And all these colors, you've got like vermilion, I think is this color we just created, but it's really red orange. This is why I went and edited my document. So it's going to spell out the colors like red orange. Now I'm making orange yellow, right? I'm just mixing the 2 colors together. So because I'm trying to show you this step by step, I am having to remix that secondary color, that orange, which is the mixture of red and yellow, as you can see there. But if you're using markers or whatever, or if you have your own set of watercolors, these colors are already pre-mixed for you. But the benefit about mixing them yourself is you can get the exact color hue that you want, which is pretty cool. So as I'm doing this, I am going over and kind of intensifying some of the colors, because this is watercolor and this is also a cheaper version of watercolored paper. I wasn't using my high dollar one to create the color wheel, so I am having to add a couple layers of color just to deepen it. But anyway, so what are we doing now? We're mixing yellow, which is the primary, and green, which is the secondary. And again, how do you get a secondary color? You're mixing the 2 primaries on either side of it together. And that's green. All right, so now we're moving into the tertiary color, which is in between green, which we created by mixing the primaries, and blue, which is gold. That is your gold. You can never, ever get that by mixing it. And then I'm mixing those 2 together, and what are you going to get? You're going to get green blue. It's probably called teal or whatever. I don't know. They're going to call it something in my watercolor palette. Actually, I could look real quick. What are they calling that? I don't know. But anyway, that's my favorite color, by the way. That's my favorite color ever. So I am drying these as they go because I don't want the colors to accidentally mix together. So if you're doing watercolor, either, space it out so you're not doing colors that are next to each other and wet, or just dry it as you go. So this color is a mixture of blue and purple, and this gives you almost like an indigo color, which is probably the painted color term, but what are we going to call it? We're going to call it blue purple. And then the last color that you're mixing together is purple and red. So you got red purple, purple red, whatever you want to call it. All right, we're going to keep these colors just named exactly what they are and not all their fancy colors. Like we've got, I'm looking at my watercolors now. We got sap green, hooker's green, indigo, deep phthalo blue, viridian, vermilion, scarlet. I mean, all these colors, but they're all just versions of the colors that we're mixing together. So this is almost like a violet. When you mix the red and the purple together, it's a violet. I am going to go in and deepen that purple before I finish it off. And then once everything's good and dry, do make sure it's dry. Here is where that second piece of paper might come into play. You might need to cut that out if you don't have a die cutting or some kind of color or circle color. Or maybe you have an X-Acto knife that you can cut around it. Somehow cut that out. I just happen to have a die. And at this point, you can glue your color wheel down to a piece of cardstock, white cardstock. Glue it down, glue the circle, not the pop-up piece we're going to do, just the circle right here. Glue that down and call it a day. I'm going to glue mine down and then laminate it because I spill stuff. I have kids. I just want to give it a little bit of protection. So I'm going to glue the circle ring down and the inside piece. I'm going to glue that down onto some white cardstock separately, a separate piece of paper, and then I'm going to run it through the machine. If you are not using a laminator, go ahead and glue both those pieces down separately, individually. Here's my coffee, why I'm showing you that. I have no idea. Probably drinking it as it goes through the laminator. But glue it down separate, individually, and then we'll cut that out. So if you're not using the laminator, glue it down, cut it out, and be done. If you are using the laminator, glue it down and run it through your laminating machine. So whatever you do, you're going to be at this step regardless, go ahead and cut off any excess, make it look pretty, cut off the white lines. That probably took more time. I'm not good at cutting than actually creating the wheel. Then stab your scissors. Do not stab yourself. Stab your scissors through the paper, both pieces, and then use a brad to connect the two. And then you've got this spinny, spinny color wheel all done and pretty. And then if you want, you can, on my original color wheel, I put little cheats on the back. I wrote like what is what not to mix, and I actually wrote the color harmonies down, whatever, on the back of the color wheel, so you can do that if you want to. But that's it, color wheel, baby. I hope this made sense to you, and I'll see you in the next lesson.